Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thanks for checking in again. As promised, we're going to chat a little bit today about nutrition. By no means am I a nutritionalist, by the way. I just am genuinely interested in this topic and have done a lot of research over the years and feel like I know enough to chat to you guys a little bit about it and maybe debunk some things that I think need to be cleared up in the industry. Now, please excuse if I jump all over the place with this video. I haven't planned any notes or anything like that. I just want to speak authentically and sort of, talk about what I know in a relatable fashion. And sort of like the journey of me actually learning this information or how I learned it. And when I first started lifting weights and concentrating on the foods I was eating, I had no idea. Absolutely no clue. So when I went from being a 65, 70 kilo little skinny kid, I thought the best way to put on weight, which did work, was to eat whatever I wanted. I had no idea about nutrients, what a carbohydrate was, what a protein was, what a fat was, nothing. I just ate everything under the sun. I drank everything under the sun. I thought that was the way to put on weight. Probably this being my naivety and lack of ability to research at a young age and to find sort of useful information. Move forward a few years, more and more things you see on the internet about eating clean and that being the best way to put on muscle. I would see my favorite athletes in the bodybuilding industry eating plates of chicken, brown rice, broccoli, having a scoop of peanut butter on the side, and I thought that this was then the way to do things. If I wanted to be taken seriously or be considered an athlete, I had to eat like this because the internet told me so, or my favorite athletes told me so. And let me tell you, it is not sustainable whatsoever to be doing that. If you want to have no life, no social life, no dinners with families, no outings, no events, sweet as, you can happily do that, and I'm sure you will see results if you stick to it for a long period of time. But this to me just wasn't the way I wanted to do things. So back in the day when I competed in my first bodybuilding competition with my coach and friend Nick Cheadle, looking after my diet, it was probably when I was 20 years old, 21, and he had me on a 6 meals a day meal plan where I was eating in the morning oats and apple and a protein shake, and then before my training I was having rice cakes and meat, and then afterwards I was having meat and a bit of rice or potato and greens. And this is what I thought it had to be like if you wanted to be taken seriously in this industry and be considered a bodybuilder or whatever you'd like to call it. It was an interesting journey competing like that. It made it extremely difficult. At this stage, I still had no idea about food. I didn't know what I was eating. I literally just got told what to do and I followed it. So, I mean, it goes back to the simple saying of, catch a man a fish, he eats for a day, but teach a man to fish and he'll eat for the rest of his life. That's sort of the principle that I then moved on when I thought about actually educating myself about nutrition, about food, and understanding what I was putting into my body. I thought that maybe when I had the knowledge that I'd be able to make better decisions for my health and for my physique or my body composition. And so that is when I came to realize that food consisted of macronutrients. And I'm sure we've all heard this word thrown out amongst the fitness industry when people say they are macro dieting or what are the macros in something. And so macros, put simply, are fat, carbohydrates, and protein. So they are the macronutrients, the 3 macronutrients within our food. We also have micronutrients, which I'm not going to break down in this video, but micronutrients, to put simply, are the smaller things like vitamins and minerals, etc., within the foods that we eat. So today about macronutrients. Pretty much everyone at all times is macronutrient dieting because within our food are macronutrients. Everyone consumes them every day. It's just a matter of how much of these things we are consuming or need to consume to adhere to our goals. Whether that be to maintain body weight, to increase body weight, to lose weight. So each macronutrient has a caloric value attached to it. So a gram of protein has 4 calories per gram. A gram of carbohydrates has 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates. And then 1 gram of fat actually has 9 calories attached to it. This brings me to my first point within the fitness industry, which I absolutely hate, is when people look negatively towards carbohydrates and they think that carbohydrates are the reason why we put on weight, the reason why people are not successful in their goals. And I absolutely hate this, because when you think about it scientifically, 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories. 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. So you can literally have 2 grams of carbohydrates for every gram of fat and still be eating less. No such thing as a nutrient being bad for us. It's just when we eat any nutrient in excess or in a calorie surplus, that is when we start to have trouble. That's when people start to put on weight. Let's talk about now the negative connotations that are attached with some nutrients. So I want to share this viewpoint that there is no food out there that is unhealthy. There's no such thing as an unhealthy food. There are just foods that are more dense in calories than others, and then they are deemed as unhealthy. But there's no such thing as unhealthy. There's just calorie dense and not so calorie dense. So in macro dieting, I am eating a certain amount of fat, carbohydrates, and protein every day in adherence to my goals at the moment, which is to stay at a maintenance level of body weight in a day. I eat 200 grams of protein, I eat 400 grams of carbohydrates, and I eat 80 grams of fat. So my fat is quite low because I love eating carbohydrates. So I'd rather get a majority of my calories from carbohydrates, which I know will aid in my performance in the gym, on the basketball court, etc., than in another way. So this is just a personal preference. So let's do a bit of simple maths now to figure out how many calories that is in a day. And so you can sort of see how different amounts of fat, protein, and carbohydrates in food will equal how many calories that food actually is. So when we have 200 grams of protein a day, so we do 200 times 4, which is 800 calories from protein. And then we do 400, which is the carbohydrates, times 4 calories again, because the carbohydrate is the same as protein, 4 calories. So 400 times 4 is 1600 calories. So 1600 plus our 800 is 2400 calories. And then we go into the fats, and we have 80 fat times 9 calories, which is another 720 calories. So when we do the maths, we have 2400 plus 720, we get 3120. So 3120 calories I am consuming in a day. So what changed in my thinking then was realizing that whether I was eating chicken and brown rice and greens and avocado and peanut butter and things that people deem to be healthy, really those things were just giving me a set amount of macronutrients in a certain way that would be deemed to be healthy. I was taught about this other way of dieting, which showed me that I could still have flexibility and sustainability within my diet as long as I was adhering to the numbers to achieve my goals in place at the time. But I could eat whatever I wanted as long as it fit into that sphere of food that I was meant to consume in a day. And so instead of eating oats for breakfast with a protein shake, I would have Nutri-Grain and yogurt, because I enjoyed eating those foods. And when I looked at the macronutrients within those foods, they essentially became the same as if I was having oats and a protein shake. The best way I like to describe it is that when consuming food, our body doesn't actually know where those calories are coming from. It just processes the nutrients. So whether we take a bite of a hamburger, which we're getting bun, meat, cheese, and sauce. So we're getting a combination of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Whether we take that bite and consume it, or whether we're having a bite of toast with, a piece of bread, avocado, cheese, and egg, we are once again just consuming carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in a different way. And so when we chew it up, swallow it, and our body begins to process it, our body does not know that we are consuming those calories from a hamburger, or whether we're consuming those calories from a piece of toast with cheese and egg. It simply processes the calories. So when you think about it like that, there's actually no harm in eating any food really, as long as you are still sticking within your target calorie amounts. Well, people tend to eat things which they deem as healthy, which might not be foods that they actually enjoy, whereby they can eat the foods they enjoy, which will help them make this lifestyle more sustainable for them, and will make dieting more sustainable for them if they're actually consuming the foods that they like. Every single day I eat foods that I enjoy eating, and this, simply put, allows me to be on this journey or this lifestyle for a longer period of time without burning out. People always ask me, do I cheat? Do I have cheat days? I eat foods every day which I really, really, really enjoy. Whether this be having chocolate, having cereals that I love, having a tub of ice cream at the end of the night. Those things are all absolutely fine to have, as long as you leave room within your target amount of calories to have those foods. I'm going out to dinner this evening with a few friends. I know, because I love steak and chips, that I'm going to have steak and chips and probably extra chips because I love chips. So all this means is that I know that I'm going to use a lot of fat in this meal. So I'm going to have steak, red meat, which is going to be, you know, fairly high in fat, and I'm going to have obviously deep fried potato in the chips, and I'm probably going to have extra, maybe some sauce. So all it means is that in my target day, which I've already said to you, I have about 80 fat, 400 carbohydrates and 200 protein, is that I'm going to leave room for that meal tonight. And so I know that during the day, I ate 2 meals so far before going out. I've had breakfast, trained, and had another meal. That I'm going to leave a lot of fat for my meal this evening, so that at the end of the day, after still eating all the foods that I've wanted to eat, I'm still going to be under that level of fat, I'm still going to be under that level of carbohydrates, and I'm still going to be around that level of protein. So at no point have I sacrificed my goal or intention, but instead I've just found a way to still eat the foods that I want to eat whilst fitting into the amount of calories that I need to eat in a day. But that being said, obviously for internal health and longevity, it is best to obviously still get your calories from nutrient-rich foods and micronutrient-rich foods. That being fruit, vegetables, fibrous greens and grains with fiber in them. I want people to get it out of their head that there are good and bad foods in this world. There are only foods that are more dense in calories and foods that are less dense in calories. We have a burger, for example, and we have a bun, we have meat, we have cheese, we have sauce. The only reason why this is seen as a bad food is because a lot of dense calories through all the fats, right? So when we have cheese, full of fat. When we have mayonnaise, full of fat. When we have a red meat, normally full of fat. All having a burger, for example, is consuming a lot of calories in a small amount of time and in a small amount of food. So the caloric value of that meal is super dense. It's not bad, it's not negative, it's just dense, which means that if you choose to have a meal like that, a burger and chips and a milkshake or something like that, it's absolutely fine as long as you're aware of what's within that food and you make adjustments for the rest of your day, having your target numbers in mind. Every food that you eat, every single thing, no matter what it is comprised of macronutrients. So that is a carbohydrate, a protein, or a fat. Everything we eat. Some more than others, some solely one, some solely the other, and most a combination of all.